The air in the abandoned city block of Nazimov was thick with the scent of rust, ozone, and a silence that felt heavier than the weight of the packs on their backs. For Corporal Anya Petrova, that silence was a different kind of burden. It was the silence of her squad mates when she spoke, the unspoken disregard for her role. In a unit of hardened infantry and elite scouts, she was just a medic. Sergeant Cole, a man with a face carved from granite and a distrust of anything he couldn't personally shoot, was the most vocal in his quiet dismissal. "Stay back, medic," he'd grunt. "Let the real soldiers handle it." The squad ghost unit was his masterpiece, a finely tuned machine of destruction. And Anya, with her sterile bandages and whispered assurances, felt like a wrench thrown into the gears. Anya had heard it all before. The military was a place of hierarchies, and in the grim calculus of combat, a medic was a necessary support, not a combatant. They didn't see the years of training, the steady hand, the clear mind. They didn't see the competitive marksman she had been before she chose this path, a life dedicated not to ending lives, but to preserving them. Her grandfather, a veteran of a forgotten war, had taught her everything about precision, about patience. He taught her that a weapon was a tool, and that the greatest skill was knowing when to put it down. She had put it down to pick up a medic's bag. She had traded the long-range clarity of a sniper's scope for the chaos and intimacy of a tourniquet. It was a choice she had made with conviction, but one her squad mates could not understand. Their mission was simple, or so it seemed: recon the Azimov sector for signs of a new hostile encampment. The sector was a skeleton of concrete and steel, a graveyard of forgotten ambitions. Buildings stood like hollowed-out monuments, windows like vacant eyes. Ghost Unit moved with practiced grace, a fluid shadow weaving through the urban decay. Anya, ever vigilant, scanned for potential dangers, not just of a military nature, but also environmental loose rebar, unstable flooring, a crumbling wall. They were deep in the city now, pushing past the point of no return. Cole, leading the formation, raised a fist to signal a halt. They were at the mouth of a narrow alleyway, a choke point flanked by a half-collapsed apartment building. A bad spot, Anya thought instinctively, a perfect place for an ambush. Her pulse quickened, a silent alarm in her chest. "I don't like this, Sarge," PFC Miller whispered over the comms. Miller, a wiry comms specialist, had a knack for sensing trouble. "We pushed through." Cole's voice was a low growl. "It's the shortest path to the extraction point." As they stepped into the alley, the world erupted. Not with gunfire, but with a deafening concussion. The ground beneath Anya's feet lurched, a violent tremor that sent a shockwave through her body. The air shimmered with heat, and a storm of concrete dust, shrapnel, and shattered glass tore through the squad. An IED. The world went silent for a moment, a vacuum of sound, before the ringing in Anya's ears returned with a vengeance. She was on the ground, disoriented, her medic bag scattered around her. A searing pain in her leg told her she had been thrown, but she was alive. She pushed herself up, her vision clearing through the haze of dust. The scene before her was chaos. The squad was pinned down, injured, exposed. Miller was on his back, a grotesque fracture in his leg. PFC Jackson was clutching his side, blood seeping between his fingers. And Sergeant Cole, the immovable object, was lying next to a crumbled wall, his face a mask of agony. A piece of jagged shrapnel was embedded deep in his shoulder, and a crimson stain was blossoming on his uniform. Then the second wave hit, not from the front, but from above and around. The crack of high-powered rifles echoed through the alley, the ricochet of bullets, a deadly symphony. The snipers had them pinned. They were the bait, and the ambush was the trap. "Take cover. Take cover!" Cole roared, but his voice was weak. He tried to raise his rifle, but the pain was too much. "We're getting hit from the rooftops. 4 different positions." "Damn it." The squad returned fire, their assault rifles spitting bullets uselessly into the sky and at distant windows. The enemy was invisible, a ghost army that seemed to know their every move. One of the scouts, Finn, a veteran sniper himself, was closest to the source of the fire. He was trying to get a lock on the enemy positions, but a sudden flash and the crack of a rifle from a high-rise window sent him sprawling, his body going limp. "Finn is down," Jackson screamed. "We can't move. We're pinned." Panic was a tangible thing, a suffocating blanket. Anya, on pure instinct, had crawled to Cole's side, pulling out a hemostatic gauze. "Anya, forget me, get to cover." Cole gritted out, his teeth clenched. "We're not getting out of this. Save yourself." But her mind, in the face of chaos, was crystal clear. She could hear the distinct reports of the enemy rifles. She could almost picture the positions, the trajectory of the bullets. She had trained for this, not as a medic, but as a marksman. The knowledge was a blueprint in her mind, a skill she had buried deep. "They're not moving," she said, her voice steady. "They have us in a kill box. We can't retreat." Cole looked at her, his eyes wide with a mix of pain and shock. He expected fear, but all he saw was an unnerving calm. Then she saw it. Finn's rifle. The Scar H, a beast of a weapon, lay on the ground just a few feet away, its advanced scope glinting in the sliver of sunlight that reached the alley. Anya pushed herself up, ignoring Cole's frantic shouts to stay down. The just a medic was gone, replaced by the ghost of a marksman. She scrambled to Finn's position, bullets kicking up dust around her. She grabbed the rifle, its cold steel feeling familiar in her hands, a long-lost friend. The weight, the balance, it was all muscle memory. "Anya, what are you doing?" Cole screamed, his voice strained. "Get down, you'll be killed." She didn't answer. She found a sliver of cover behind a crumbled concrete pillar. With the precision of a surgeon and the speed of a sprinter, she checked the magazine, adjusted the scope for range, and took a deep breath. She had 12 years of training, 12 years of patience, all for this moment. She peered through the scope. The world was suddenly magnified, sharp, and focused. She could see the crumbling facade of the building across the street, the gaping maw of a broken window, and there, a slight glint, the barrel of a rifle. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her mind. "Be patient, my warrior. Wait for the breath. Wait for the pause between heartbeats." Her fingers settled on the trigger. She didn't think about the kill. She thought about the squad, about Miller, about Jackson, about Cole. She thought about the lives she needed to save. She exhaled slowly, her body perfectly still, and squeezed the trigger. The rifle bucked against her shoulder. The report was a concussive thunder in the quiet alley. Through the scope, she watched the glass around the enemy sniper's window shatter, a spiderweb of destruction, and the figure slump forward. One down. The sudden silence from that position was a beacon of hope for the pinned-down squad. "One less," she muttered to herself. She quickly scanned the rooftops, her heart a steady drum. She saw another muzzle flash, this one from a high-rise to their left. The sniper was behind a concrete barrier, using it for cover. She adjusted the scope, compensating for the wind and elevation. She didn't have a clear shot at the body, so she aimed for the rifle. A clean, precise shot that tore through the weapon, rendering it useless. The sniper, disarmed, peeked out in confusion, and her second shot, aimed at the head, ended the threat. 2 down. The squad was watching now, their faces a mixture of confusion and disbelief. The medic, the quiet girl, was shooting back. And not just shooting, but hitting. She moved her position, her eyes glued to the scope, a predator in a world of prey. She spotted a third sniper, partially obscured by an advertising billboard. The shot was long, a 300-meter risk, and required a perfect calculation of wind and bullet drop. Her mind, a finely tuned machine, did the math in a split second. The shot was perfect, a silent exclamation point to her capabilities. 3 down. The tide of the battle was turning. The enemy, confused by the sudden and deadly counterfire, was becoming sloppy. She saw a 4th sniper on a fire escape, a 5th behind a disabled car, a 6th in a crumbling clock tower. Each one a careful, deliberate shot. Each one a life saved. The numbers stacked up in her mind, a tally of lives preserved. 7 down. 8 down. The squad was now able to move, to get to better cover, to tend to the wounded. Miller, his legs stabilized, looked at her with awe. Jackson, his bleeding under control, just stared. And Cole, his face now a mixture of pride and utter disbelief, watched as the just-a-medic methodically dismantled the ambush. 10 down, 11 down, 12 down. The enemy's fire became sporadic, desperate. They were losing control, a well-oiled machine breaking down under the surgical precision of one person. She saw the last 3, a small command unit trying to organize a retreat, their leader frantically trying to get to a radio. Her hand was steady. She took out the 2 grunts first, a quick 1-2 punch that sent them to the ground. Then, with a deep breath, she aimed at the last one, the leader. He was in a full sprint, a moving target. Her grandfather's voice, a steady whisper in her mind. Lead the target, my warrior. Trust your instincts. The rifle cracked one final time. The leader stumbled, his body falling forward. He was still for a moment, and then the silence returned, a deep, profound silence that was broken only by the ragged breathing of her squad. 15 down. She lowered the rifle, the weight suddenly a foreign thing in her hands. She quickly made her way back to the squad, her mind already shifting back to medic mode. She knelt beside Cole, her hands moving with a practiced urgency. She pulled out a needle and thread, and with a focus that was both clinical and compassionate, she began to stitch the wound in his shoulder. Cole didn't flinch. He just watched her, his eyes unblinking. The man who had seen her as a hindrance now saw her as a guardian angel. "Anya," he finally said, his voice raw with a new kind of respect. "What did you just do?" She finished the stitch, tied off the thread, and looked him in the eye. "I saved you, Sergeant," she said, her voice soft but firm. The rest of the squad, the wounded and the whole, gathered around her, their silence no longer a wall of disregard, but a field of profound respect. The rescue chopper's blades were a distant rumble, a sound of salvation. As the chopper landed, Cole, his arm in a makeshift sling, leaned against the side of the building. The squad was loaded up, the wounded carefully secured. The pilot's voice came over the comms. "Ghost unit, what's your status?" "We got a report of an ambush." Cole looked at Anya, who was already tending to the next man. He smiled, a tired but genuine expression. "Negative, sir," he said. "The ambush was neutralized. We're all good. Thanks to Corporal Petrova. She sniped all 15 of them." He didn't say, "just a medic." He would never say it again. Anya climbed into the chopper, her face streaked with dust and the grime of battle. She was no longer just a medic. She was a soldier who had a steady hand and a kind heart. A warrior who understood that the true measure of a shot was not the life it ended, but the lives it saved.